Welcome back, friends. Today we're going to be baking a basic loaf of white sandwich bread. We're going to bake this in a Pullman pan. Now, a Pullman pan allows you to have a crust that is much softer, and the shape of your loaf comes out like a basic loaf of bread at the grocery store. We always have sourdough bread on hand, and I love a good country loaf of like Amish bread. But when it comes down to a good old-fashioned peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something like that, I always want that bread like you get in the grocery store. You're going to find out baking in this loaf pan will get you as close to that as you can come. So I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions. Get ready, because here we go. Before I begin mixing the ingredients, I want to give you a little tip. We save all of these paper wrappers that are wrapped around our butter. There's always a little butter left on them, and it makes so much easier for you to grease your loaf pans or your cake pans anytime that you're going to need any butter to grease anything up. All you do is just what I'm doing. Hold the paper by its back, your butter's on the front. I keep these in a little Ziploc folded into themselves so they don't make a huge mess in the Ziploc, but it's very handy. Just pull one out of the refrigerator every time you need something greased, and there you go. Okay, friends, to our KitchenAid bowl, we have added 1.5 cups of warm water. Your water should be between 105 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. We've added 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 4 cups of bread flour. You can use all-purpose flour if you need to. A teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of dry milk powder, which will make you have a softer bread and a softer crust, and 2 tablespoons of softened butter are now going in. And then we're going to go ahead and turn on our KitchenAid and allow it to mix our ingredients. There's 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. We're going to allow the KitchenAid to mix our ingredients for us, and after they are mixed, it will knead them for 5 minutes. I know it'll be a little loud, but this is how you're going to find out how it works. Get ready for my bowl up. It's all in this bowl. You don't have to do any hard work on your own unless you decide you want to knead it by hand. Now, if you do wish to knead yours by hand, you will knead it for approximately 10 minutes. But this is such an easy way to make this bread. It makes it perfect for whipping up on a Sunday afternoon or anytime. I know a lot of you moms, your children have just gone back to work. You're looking for something quick, and this is perfect for a loaf of bread for your children. Now, it's going to, you see how it's mixed? It's going to start pulling away from the side of this pan. I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes now. And I think it's on a low enough speed. I can go ahead and leave it there for 5 minutes working my dough for me. And then I'll come right up on the 5-minute mark, and the bread is beginning to pull away from the side of the bowl. That's exactly what you want. We're going to now stop our mixer. My timer's about to go off. We're going to stop the mixer and take the pan, the bowl down, remove our dough hook, and pull that dough away from your dough hook. Take our dough out and just form it in a little ball. Push my mixer over a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just giving it a little soft knead and forming it into a ball. That's all you need to do. Then we're going to take our bowl off of our mixer, and I'm going to grease this bowl. Going to use one of my saved butter wrappers. You don't need to clean the bowl out or anything in this step. Just go ahead and grease it up good with that butter or oil if you choose. Now we're going to put the ball of dough back into this bowl. And I tell you what, I actually like to do the top of my dough ball just a little bit. All this does is keep it from sticking to the edge of the pan as it rises. Now I'm going to cover this, and I'm going to leave it set for about an hour, but depending on your temperature in your home and other things that might be going on in your home, the condition of your air temperature, all these things can matter. It may take you a little longer. I have baked this loaf, and in an hour it was ready to shape, and I have had to leave it for an hour and a half for it to rise completely. You want for it to about double in size. You'll know when you look at it, it's going to look like a big old balloon, and I'll show you what that looks like before I begin to take it out and go to the next step. So for the next hour to possibly an hour and a half, I'm going to cover this. You can cover it with either a clean towel. Don't get a fuzzy towel. It might stick to your dough. And also you could just use plastic wrap if you choose to. We're going to cover it, and we're going to place it in a nice warm place to rise. All right, friends, our dough has finished rising. And now what we're going to do is punch it down, deflate it. I know, you let it rise and get so pretty, and then you got to knock the bubbles out of it. But that's what we got to do. You're going to deflate it, and then you're going to pull it right out onto your counter. And now you're going to deflate it even some more. What you want to do is to stretch it out till it is about the length of your Pullman pan. So I'm just going to work it with my hands. Now some people will take a rolling pin and roll it out. As they all say, I ain't got time for that. You can do with your hands sometimes what you could do with a tool, but I like using my hands. I think it's therapeutic. The Pullman pan, by the way, guys, was invented back in 1897 by George W. Knapp. And he actually had a patent for it, but it got its name Pullman pan because it was used very widely by the Pullman Railroad back in the 1800s. They called it Pullman because, of course, it was used in his railway cars. And the reason they liked it so much is because it makes the flat top loaf. And what that did for them was allow them to stack more loaves of bread into their tiny little rail car kitchens that they had. So I thought that was a pretty interesting fact to know that Mr. Pullman, they say, kind of tried to take credit for the Pullman pan, but he did not invent it. It was Mr. Knapp, and he actually had a patent on the pan. Now after we've got it out about like this, can you see good? Stretched out. We're just going to start to roll it kind of like you were rolling cinnamon rolls. If you ever made any cinnamon rolls, you're just going to start rolling it up to tight little rolls. Now what you want to keep them tight for, the reason for that is to keep all the bubbles out. You don't want a bunch of bubbles in your bread dough, otherwise you get holes in your bread. Not that that's going to matter that much if you're just making it for your family, but I'm sure you do want a pretty loaf. We're going to just keep on rolling until we get toward the end of it. Now when we get down here to the end, we're going to bring it over here, and you're going to pinch together the seam that's there. Pinch it together all the way down. You want to make sure it's tightly pinched all the way down. Then pull your end out like so, tuck it in, bring it back, and pinch it up too. Same with the other end. Pinch it up. Just kind of play with it a little bit and get it all even like you want it to be. Now we're going to put it in our greased Pullman with the seam side down. And we're going to flatten it out. You'll see me flattening it out just like this. Just poke it down in there. You're going to get it all flat because it has to rise. One more time it has to rise. But this time doesn't take quite as long as the other one, the first rise. So we're going to get it all flattened out, all the way down. And then I just go right ahead and set my lid on my Pullman. Let's see, I always get this backwards. I go ahead and put my lid on, and then we're going to set it over in a nice warm spot on top of the stove while I preheat my oven. We'll leave this sitting there and let it rise until it gets about 1 inch from the top of your Pullman pan. And so let's get this rising for another, say, half an hour or so. Friends, I wanted to show you just how versatile this one recipe is that we're making in this Pullman pan. Now this is still rising, ready to go, to get ready to go into the oven. I made a second loaf. However, before I got it ready to put in the Pullman, you know how when you take it out of the bowl after it's risen that first time and you start smoothing and stretching it out and then you're going to roll it up? Okay, I smoothed and stretched it out. I did about 1/3 and 2/3 is what I did. Cut it to where I had this little mini loaf just because I really didn't have enough to make 2 of these good sized loaves. But with this one, when I spread it out, I spread it all over the top of it with real butter, cinnamon, and sugar. And that did pretty heavy on it. And then I rolled it up just like I was going to put it in the Pullman, except it went into a regular sized loaf pan. I allowed that to bake until I did the thump test, just like a regular loaf of bread. That's how you know if it's done or not. Then I made a glaze while it was yet warm of just powdered sugar, some heavy whipping cream, and some vanilla. And while it was still warm, I put that all over the top of that. That will give us some cinnamon bread, something kind of tasty to have on the side as a dessert or for breakfast. Just wanted you to know that there's a lot that can be done with just this one recipe of dough, that all you had to do was dump in the bowl of your KitchenAid and start mixing. So think about what you could do with this recipe besides just make a loaf in your Pullman. I had to cut this for you guys just to show you how it turned out, and it is so very moist. My little sidekick Bentley's fixing to have some of it. He's excited about it. He's going to have some while it's still warm, you guys. But yeah, think outside of the box. Friends, our bread has risen to just about 1 inch, I think you can tell, from the top of the Pullman. So we're about to put it in the oven. Our oven has preheated now to 350 degrees. And we're going to set the timer for 30 minutes. I think the last time I kept it in for about 32 minutes. And at that time, we will pull it out of the oven. All right, wish this loaf luck. Friends, we just took the Pullman out of the oven. I'm going to open it up. And as you can see, you've got a flat top loaf. That was my timer. I took it off. This stayed in there, like I said, the last time I left it 32 minutes. This time was right about 33 minutes. I took it out at 30 and just wanted to give it a few more minutes. Now I'm going to turn it out for you. Oh, mercy. It's hard to do anything with these big old gloves on. I got to take them off, and I'd rather burn myself than mess my loaf of bread up. So there, as you can see, that's what your loaf of bread will look like. Square, good square loaf, just like you would get at the grocery store. Nice and soft. That's exactly what you're looking for right there. Thanks for being with us today. Bentley's standing on a stool, so he's still a little short thing, but he's growing, aren't you? Bye-bye. Listen, hey, how did you like that cinnamon bread?
It was awesome.
Yeah. He's not telling you a fib either. It was awesome. So think outside of the box.
And subscribe to our channel.
And subscribe to our channel. That's right, Bentley Maddox. Okay, you guys, thanks for being with us today. And until next time, bye-bye and be blessed.